Alright. So this was the last thing we saw. Alright. He's unconscious. Aaliyah says she's looking at a piece of modern art done in really bad taste. Which, like, fair. Sorry, I'm just switching stuff over really quick. And I wanted to make sure that Stream Captain was up. I feel like I have one of the dog's hairs in my mouth. I blame Palermo. I kissed the top of his head. Alright.
Sure seems like our friend Daniel here was just destined to suffer.
Okay, so Daniel.
He crossed the entire continent and married into the Clarkson family, all for the sake of the woman he loved.
Are we sure about that anymore? Because I'm not. I'm 100%
Then the
not.
love of his life became a drug addict and ended up murdering their very own daughter.
Like,
and she too was murdered as part of her big brother's conspiracy.
Simon, how fucking hard is it for you?
Finally, in order to prove that he could take responsibility for the family, he gave up his right arm to his father-in-law, who got blown to bits soon afterwards. And to add insult to injury, all the inheritance went to PJ's secret heir. If I had to go through all that, I'm pretty sure I'd go crazy.
I don't know.
What do you mean?
He found someone he loved so much. He moved across the entire continent just to be with her. That's beautiful.
Is it? Like, I feel like something is weird here.
It also seems that he was eventually able to make an identity for himself and Luke Carre as well. After I found his daughter's body, I interrogated him for a bit. When I told him we were gonna do an autopsy on her body, he didn't react violently in any way. I remember him looking relieved and tired. Kinda like someone who'd just woken up from a coma.
Okay. What does that mean? I don't know. Straight up don't know.
He was taught how to rule as a child, never confided in anyone, and married for purely political reasons. Then he prospered so much that he became
everything is
powerful
weird
enough to rule an entire town on his own. But in the end, his own child betrayed him and ended his entire clan in a series of violent deaths. If that was your life, how would you look back on it?
I mean, hopefully you'd fucking regret it.
Yeah. Beats me.
Really, Simon?
I wasn't born into a rich family, nor was I ever taught how to rule.
He's getting antsy because it's gonna storm.
And for what it's worth, I've also never knocked up a young ex-actress. But I guess the one thing we can say is that any good life needs balance. Get too hung up on one thing and you lose sight of everything else. And if you betray someone, you'll get betrayed too. If someone thinks they can step all over people and then live out the rest of their life in peace, they're fooling themselves. We always get to see how those people end up in our line of work. In the end, they die horrible deaths. That is why pizza is the only thing I trust. Pizza never betrays you.
Uh-huh. Go off, Simon. I love how she had nothing to say about it. She's like, I'm fucking done with your pizza talk, alright?
Anna Graham,
See, it is Anna.
the first victim of the Greenvale case. Her body was found hanging from a tree, like a goddess being worshipped in a sanctuary. Meanwhile, Lise Clarkson was found on the bank of a river in an area that had been fashioned into an altar. The person who gruesomely ended the life of that young woman
Oh my
must be
God.
brought to justice.
Okay, sorry, I'm back. The more I look at this representation, the more details I notice, the less I like it. Like, what do you... I don't understand what you mean. Please don't tell me that they're gonna retcon DP1. This thing in front of us. What was going on here? Yeah.
I completely agree. They both still had their whole lives ahead of them.
The Le Carré case and the Greenvale case. According to my investigation, the one key that links both cases is Francis Zach Morgan. But if we look at the cases from his point of view,
Yeah, what about it?
we see one more connection.
The red seeds, huh?
The red seeds are also present in both cases. I believed that he was the one who brought them to both towns.
But no!
But maybe... No. Never mind.
Don't you never mind. You need to know this shit.
She planned a string of murders all in order to restore the Clarksons to their former glory, right?
Like, define the former glory, though.
Yeah. According to Morgan's story. Matches up with the files, too.
But do the files talk about, you know, the person that told her about this?
But the only proof of that is the confession she privately gave to Morgan just before she died.
Not really, because we had that whole book, didn't we?
Galena Clarkson was also murdered immediately after she confessed. Don't you think it's all a little too convenient?
Well, story-wise, yeah.
And the sacrifices. None of the FBI's official records contain an example of an actual human sacrifice. Aside from the cases that Francis Zach Morgan handled, that is.
Okay, so you're saying that he's the one who killed... What the fuck?
There are tons of examples of animal sacrifice, though. And remember the witch hunts back in the Middle Ages?
Meaning?
Meaning, there are always exceptions to the rule. And Morgan alluded to the existence of some sort of journal, right?
Okay, we do remember that.
I think he said he read it in Professor R's lab. If we could find that, maybe this would all become easier to swallow.
The report didn't mention anything about a journal. And if it truly did exist, it surely would have been submitted as evidence.
Wait, so then how does Simon know that there's a journal?
Unless he tried to cover it up on purpose. Or...
Unless the journal never existed in the first place.
Exactly. This case took place in Le Carré and centered around the Clarksons.
York mentioned it? York mentioned it back in 2005. I was under the impression that he was imagining what was happening and he was like remembering what happened in 2005, not necessarily telling them about it. Like, what, did he just make up these cases in his mind and he was the one actually committing all these, like, what the fuck happened here?
Oppressive authority, cross purposes, madness, and love. But Katrina took the truth along with many innocent lives and buried it all at the bottom of the swamp. But there's one truth that can never be washed away. This all started with the death of a young girl.
Mm-hmm. We know that much. Alright, let's look at the Galena one.
Why did she believe what Professor R told her? The whole blood purge story. There's no way anyone in their right mind would ever believe that.
Right, I agree with that.
You got a point.
No matter how badly all the bullying must have broken her heart. I just find it too hard to believe. Don't you?
Yeah, but you shouldn't think too hard about it.
Why not?
Human beings don't make sense. We always do things that can't be explained with common logic, especially when it concerns our parents, children, and siblings.
That doesn't satisfy me. No matter how irrational an action may be, I want to know exactly why that person made such an irrational decision. Otherwise, what hope do we have?
I don't know.
You're never gonna be in a situation where everything makes perfect sense. Just stop sticking your nose so deeply into everything.
Stick it deeper.
That's my advice, as an old guy who's lived twice as long as you.
You and I are nothing alike. You decided to give up on your life and spend the rest of your time on Earth sitting around and playing Sudoku.
Wow, okay, they just can't get along, huh?
The 16-year-old girl who was murdered in Lucare in 2005. After that, she remained frozen for 14 years, waiting for someone to discover her. I was the one who found her, which means I have a duty to lay her soul to rest. Everyone thinks that the principal thing to the tree is the fruit. But in point of fact, the principal thing to it is the seed. Now I know why Lise Clarkson was murdered first. Lisa's death was Professor R having second thoughts.
What?
According to Morgan, her plan was to perform parricide and filicide.
Patricide, you mean? What's parricide? Just parent? So, kill your parent, kill your sibling.
Then commit suicide. Those were the 3 deaths necessary to complete the ritual, remember?
Okay, right, so you weren't supposed to kill your offspring.
Which means she technically could have killed Patricia first. That would have been the best way to delay any interference from the Clarksons themselves. The reason she didn't kill Patricia first is because Lena was actually following a different plan inside her own mind. Or perhaps she merely changed her plan as she followed through with it. At some point, new emotions started to take root within her.
She wanted to stop the plan, maybe? Realized that it wasn't a good idea?
She had second thoughts about something. And in order to shake those off, she used Galena to kill Lise first. In order to cut off any possible escape. But that only made her plan move ahead quicker than she could have ever imagined, which forced her to rush right up to the end with those misgivings always in the back of her mind.
Huh? Wait, hold on. Yeah, you lost me. What are you talking about?
Simon.
In other words, at some point, Helena Doman decided that she wanted to make Patricia the next heir. The blood purge wasn't for the goddess of fertility. It was for their daughter, Patricia.
So her plan always was to have Patty live. So she planned ahead so far that she even knew that Melvin was gonna fuck up the plan.
Wait, are you saying Helena knew from the start that Sheriff Woods would die with Candy?
That's the only explanation I can think of.
Huh.
Remember